I went to elementary school in the 80s, the very early 80s, and I had kept, probably not on purpose, by sheer accident, this book called The High Road of Song by Dan Forsman Fenwick. And it says it's W.J. Gage and Company Limited. And I looked this book up online because this is how it always looked, with the creases on the front, and it is giving me a date of the late 1800s, and between the late 1800s and the 1940s. So at the latest, I'm going to guess that this was probably a book that had been in my school since the 1940s. I went to a century-old elementary school. It was actually the first school in my town. I'm very proud of it. It was a really great school, really good memories, and so I thought it would be fun. I have to cover up the top because unfortunately back then I didn't write on my books, but we were told to write our names on the front of this book. And my name is on there, my real name, and I don't want you to figure out who I am. My identity is very secret. So it doesn't say a year on here, which is quite disappointing because again, by my research, it's just giving me a ballpark figure. So, some of you may or may not be interested in this, but what I found very cool, very interesting, is that I grew up in a time where the Lord's Prayer was said every morning before school, as well as the Canadian anthem. And in my school years, there were only 2 children. They were great kids, wonderful friends that were that would have to walk out during these morning announcements and songs, and they were Jehovah Witness. Our school was a very diverse mix. We had Chinese, Korean, Native, Ukrainian, I'm trying to think here, guys, sorry, like Scottish, Irish, typical Canadian, European, and Spanish, and I'm not quite sure. I can't really think at this moment, but we had a very diverse group of students, and we didn't know what diversity was. We were all just friends that got along, and we really accepted each other for who we were. And it was just a different time, and there was no ill will towards each other. We were just literally just a bunch of kids who just thought of each other as friends. That's it. So going back to what I said, that the Lord's Prayer was said every day in school. This was before it got taken out. And we also had a Christmas pageant of sorts, where we had each class would put on a performance, or maybe it was just a simple Christmas carol being sung. There's Jolly Jack Frost, just your typical, again, heavily influenced European look, Thanksgiving, Halloween, Big Brown Partridge, and A Christmas Carol, that's a classic, The Dear Old Tree, and there's The Christmas Carol. One of my fondest memories of school was every year for Thanksgiving, our whole school had a dinner in the library. We didn't have a gymnasium. We had a little place in the basement, which was like, the ceiling was like only 5 feet tall, and it was very dreary. So we had a dinner in the library. We held the dinner in the library, and the whole point of it was so that we could try new foods. And I always liked it because I was a picky eater, and so yeah, I had the opportunity to try all different things. And I don't even think a school would even do that. I mean, we had the full Thanksgiving dinner, turkey, mashed potatoes, dressing, everything, the whole works. And you were free to have as much or as little as you wanted. But the whole thing was like, our parents would write down what we haven't tried before. And so, you know, they would kind of encourage us to try that when we were at the dinner. And so I'm just going over these songs. If someone was into preserving these, they'd look very nice in frames somewhere, but I'd like to leave the book intact. I didn't even check what the going price was on eBay. I'm curious. I had a number of very old vintage books. And unfortunately, when I found them, they were covered in mold. And I know for a fact, there's people that do restore old books. I mean, some of these were from the 1900s. And I was just like, I can't keep these in my storage. I'm just going to throw them out. And I regret it because I'm sure that there was some books that could possibly have been salvaged. But that was one of my coolest finds. There's hot crust buns. I always like that. And I had never tried hot crust buns until I was in my 20s. I went to my friend's for a dinner, and she made fresh breads, and she had made fresh hot cross buns. And I tried them, and I loved them. I don't know why I never had tried them before. There's Soldier Boy and Arbor Day. So, yeah. And I don't knock anyone for whatever they hold dear to them. I just find this very interesting that a book like this will never be in the schools again. Morning Compliments. That's pretty nice. We were very fortunate. My youngest son was. We were very fortunate that he was able to. His school is one of the last ones in our region, I guess, to actually have a Christmas assembly, as they call it. His school was one of the last ones before they took Christmas out of schools. And some people will say, well, Christmas is a pagan celebration or whatever. Well, whatever. I just remember our Christmas celebrations being mainly at church, and we learned about the birth of Jesus Christ. And, it was a pretty remarkable story. And we always reenacted the play. And so while, people might not believe in Santa Claus and all the commercialism that comes with Christmas, to me, Christmas is always a special occasion. I'm not too hype on the holiday myself, but the actual true meaning behind Christmas is actually remarkable. I remember sitting and listening to my Sunday school teacher talk about how Jesus and Mary had to cross the desert and find an inn, and in which time they had to go, of course, to the barn amongst the baby animals, and Mary had to deliver Jesus. So that, to me, this story was just, I always will hold that true and dear to my heart. Yeah, this book is heavily influenced by Christmas and like a traditional Christmas. I see a lot of that in here. Watchman, what of the night? There were no AI generated songs, no computerized lyrics or digital instruments. Remember, people that wrote songs back then had to use traditional instruments to make a melody. If you are a musician or interested in music writing, I suggest you really look back on how this is one of my favorites, Raindrops and Snowflakes. It's so pretty. It's such a pretty song. It's literally a bohemian folk tune, and you get that vibe from it when you're singing the lyrics. Very pretty. I think we have Portuguese. We just have a mix of everything. Now, of course, we would call this a native lullaby now, and a really pretty song as well. The Fly and the Bumblebee. I think I remember this song. I'm not quite sure. And we always had choir in my school. You didn't have to be the best singer. We didn't play instruments in elementary school, but we did sing. And I'm sure some people liked it more than others. But yeah, so grandmother's minuet. Minuet, I don't know what a minuet is. I'll have to look that up after I... minuet so stately, danced in candle glow, powdered wigs and crinolines. So what would a minuet be? I don't know. There's our hint. The favorite colors. And like when you're learning from songs like this, like when you're in grade school, like, what do you love that's red? The silky poppy, bright as a flame. What do you love that's blue? The sky above, when weather is clear. The merry-go-round. The alphabet song. I don't remember this one at all. And a daytime lullaby. A Breton lullaby. I don't know if that's Cape Breton or... Oh, Celtic, so it's Irish, right? I hope. Yeah. A prayer. Their Polish folk song, Praise Thee Lord. Bluebird, 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 that's a German folk song. What an eclectic mix of... That's by Mozart. Evening Song, another folk song. Georgian Chant. I don't know if that was Russian or Beethoven. Oh, Sebastian Bach. Gifts of God. Worship, another Spanish folk song. So whoever wrote this book must have been a traveler to have known these songs, gathered them and put them together. Evening prayer. Pages are going to stick here. Evening hymn. God Save the King. Who would that be referring to? I'm not sure. Maybe, I don't know. This must be very old. Yeah, so that is it, guys. Just a little look through of a very old book. Bye-bye.